Well, we're going to try this again. This is my fourth try. And if this doesn't work, then I don't know what else to do. My roommate is using up a lot of the internet, and so it keeps cutting me off. And I'll have to have a conversation to have that not happen again at 12 noon when my hi Diane, thank you, let's hope this works. So I'm going to start again. This is Wendy Bergen. I'm a transformational solution coach. I'm an expert at zeroing in on what's holding you back and unlocking your full potential. I'm also a best-selling author of Getting Unstuck, 30 Ways to Turn Your Limiting Barriers into Clarity, Freedom, and Power. I also have a podcast, Thriving at 60. I'm in 30 different countries, and I have over 26,000 followers. So thanks, Diane, for hanging in there, because this was really frustrating. So anyways, today I was on a Zoom call with women around romantic relationships, and we invited Marjorie Chapman, who is from South Carolina, who is a relationship coach, and to tell us some things that you could do to get complete or free when a relationship ends. And this can be used whether it's someone who passes on, your loved one, or you're ending a relationship because there's things that just don't work. So I'm inviting you to take these on, and the main one is being responsible for your part in the relationship. And you can say, anything that you start looking at, and anything that you can say that you did to cause friction or to not have the relationship work. And I'll just give you some examples from mine, because I did this exercise years ago when I was completing with my former husband, and it really brought me some freedom. And so you look at where you can be responsible for the breakdown in the relationship, instead of looking over there at all the things they did. They might have done a lot of doo-doos, right? But it's like you want to bring freedom for them and you. So you look at your part, no make wrong. And, one of the things that I had to say was that I didn't speak up at times when I should have stepped up. I kept quiet and let it go. Or I let it slide, or I overreacted because I didn't know how to communicate properly, how to get my point across without being aggressive. So either I was a pit bull or a doormat at times. I was overly sensitive in certain areas. There's areas in my life where I needed to do some more work, and so I was overly sensitive. I wasn't specific enough when I wanted certain things. I had this romantic notion that didn't work in our relationship, that you should already know what I want. And so I would make you wrong. I'd get you back. I'd punish you somehow, right? I hid things from you. I didn't always tell you honestly about our finances, because I didn't want to be accountable. I didn't want you telling me what to do, and I also didn't want to be accountable. I didn't treat you as a partner. It was just, sometimes it was, I treated you like you against me, or you against me and the kids. And so I created a separateness at times, and that was not fair. That wasn't partnership. So you can start looking at that. Gives you a flavor of where you can look at where you could be responsible. And I'm not saying that they didn't do things, but you don't, when you're completing, you want to be responsible for what you did, and then whatever else is there. So you keep looking. Pit bull or doormat? Yeah, I did. And relearn and grow, right? I rarely ever am a pit bull or a doormat anymore. And yes, from my upbringing, I learned to do that, right? You know, I literally, to save my life, I was a doormat at times. And then to save my life, I was a pit bull. And that was learned behavior as a youngster. And it does not work in a relationship. In any relationship, it just doesn't work. So I had to do some work on me. And then the second part around getting freedom is look and see what you can acknowledge your romantic partner for. And, you know, even if you had bad times, there was good times in that relationship. So really look and leave them with acknowledging them. So, you know, what I did with my former husband, I said, I want, and this is a process. Like, I wasn't able to do that right away. I mean, I did acknowledge my husband and I did leave complete, but it took several years for him to get complete himself. I was committed to getting complete, and at the time we split, he wasn't. He was too into anger, and so I had to allow that and own my part and not make him wrong. You know, if I lived in his mind, I might take the actions that he took, right? So what I said to him is, I want to acknowledge you for being willing to work hard and to provide for our family so that I could be at home running our businesses. We had 3 businesses, but I could be at home, and if I needed to, I could go and be there for the kids. So, you know, I really acknowledged my former husband for that, because not all husbands would allow that, right? And I had to acknowledge him that he was a considerate lover, and that he took care of my needs before his. And he rarely ever did not do that. And I wanted to acknowledge him for that. And I wanted to acknowledge him for his generosity. I keep moving something because something keeps coming down. With his time and the way he kept the house outside. I had to acknowledge him for that, you know. And I wanted to acknowledge him for the many great dates that we did have. At the beginning, it was great. And I wanted to acknowledge for the great family holidays that we created together. So, and then you start looking at, is there anything else that you, and you do this in writing at first. You make a list. You don't do this in person at first. You start doing this. You look at what you can, you know, take responsibility for in the area of your relationship that doesn't work, and then really look at where you can acknowledge them. And it might only be 1 or 2 things that you can be responsible for, and 1 or 2 things you can acknowledge them for. The more you can take responsibility and the more acknowledgement, the better. But sometimes you can only do a couple. That's where you're at. And I was able to thank him for, and I continue, like, it's funny that after a few years of his anger after we divorced, he has come, because I kept acknowledging. He and I have great conversations today about our children, and that's the goal. You want, especially when you have children, you want to be able to have interactions with each other, and the whole family. You're going to have family get-togethers, and no matter how old your children are, they want to know that you're loving and respecting each other. You know, and so I acknowledge him. I continue to acknowledge him and how great he is with our youngest daughter. He and you know, I watch our granddaughter a lot, and yeah, it is important. And so I acknowledge him. I asked him if he would co-watch our granddaughter at times when I can't, would he be willing to drive down from where he lives, which is an hour and a half, and come and watch our granddaughter. And he does now. And that was not a possibility before because he was so angry. So I really think it's important that we get freed up, and not to forget to keep looking at where we can acknowledge people. I also acknowledge him for, you know, since our divorce, he has included our oldest daughter. Our oldest daughter has a different dad, and her dad is dead. And I acknowledge him for keeping open his communication with her and allowing her to keep being part of his life. And I don't take that for granted. And I thank him for that. So, those are just some ways that I suggest, those are some of the steps that I say to bring freedom in completing a romantic relationship. And if there's death, write that letter. Write that letter of, if you've got any guilt at all of anything you've done, write your lover that letter and acknowledge what you did. And you could only do the best you could do with the tools you had. You can't do better unless you know better. So, write that letter and then acknowledge them. And at the end, you just keep looking and seeing, is there anything else? Is there anything else, so that you can be complete? Because you want to get complete so you can end that part of your life and start moving forward with some freedom. So thank you for listening. I hope that made a difference. I hope that gives you some access to having some freedom in ending a romantic relationship. Give up being right, they're right, or you're right, they're wrong. And it is a process. You might not be there yet, but it is a process, right? And don't forget, you can get a 15-minute, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. So you can get a 15-minute complimentary discovery session, my gift to you, because I want you to move forward. So if there's any romantic relationship where you're stopped and you haven't been able to get freedom and get complete, set up a 15-minute discovery session with me, and let's look at a couple of, maybe one thing where you could work on so that you could bring some freedom and get some completion and move yourself forward. Don't forget, you can buy my book, Getting Unstuck, 30 Ways to Turn Your Limiting Barriers into Clarity, Freedom, and Power. And you can get that on Amazon in paperback or digital. Thank you so much, and I'd love to see you on this Facebook Live next week at 12 noon, and hopefully my roommate is not using up all the Wi-Fi. Thanks. I'm glad I persisted and kept this up. And thank you, Diane, for being on here. I love you, and hope to see you soon. And see you next, yeah, freedom. See you next Sunday at 12 noon. Bye now.